Can someone please explain to me how IBM has profited over $6 billion from failed Canadian IT projects? Like one company profiting from nationwide taxpayer funded failures. This is incredible to me. I fell down a bit of a rabbit hole, but to just give you an idea, on average, these projects are 5 to 8 years behind in schedule and 450% budget overruns. Like, are you kidding me? Like, just look at these insane numbers. We see billion in here all the time, and then we see these budget overruns, which is just absolute insanity to me. And how, please tell me how IBM is involved in 4 of these 6 projects. Like, stop hiring them. In the last 20 years, the Canadian government has lost over $21 billion in taxpayer funded money because of these IT disasters, and they continue to repeat this pattern. So I want to really dig in like forensically and unpack that pattern, mostly so that you guys can, one, see it and get an air of transparency to hold these people accountable, but also in your own projects, see the writing on the walls of things that are going to be an absolute financial disaster. And like, I can't stress this enough. This isn't about just software, right? This is about public trust and what the people you serve deserve as far as your accountability in these big budget spends. So the first thing we have to talk about is this unbelievable vendor dependency. And it's not just federal, right? It's provincial as well. And governments outsource their system design to IBM. That is so dangerous. So they leverage IBM code in these types of different system design. And there's a common theme in this, right? They do it wrong, and then you pay them more money. And you can look at any of the 4 projects that I referenced on that spreadsheet, but like the Phoenix Pay system, they amended that system over 39 times. The initial project was $6 million, and it turned into a contract with IBM for over $185 million. That's insane. It's criminal. Quebec Health, same story. They awarded IBM the contract for $96 million in 2024, but it's ballooned to over $600 million in just less than 2 years. Why would they do it right if this contract value expands more than 1,000% year over year? I don't know if there's like some institutional amnesia happening, but like, you guys, you have to be held accountable for continuing to let this vendor completely take advantage of your systems and your people. The other theme that's been incredibly apparent, and I can only take this from an IT organizational standpoint. I'm not a Canadian. I don't know what it's like to live in the Canadian government, but there's this weird like accountability, diffusion, and blame loop that goes on. We can go back to looking at the Phoenix payroll disaster, where the auditor general was like, how could you possibly have gone to production without any sort of testing? Yet no executives were held accountable for that. And even when they do resign, right, they're not even fired, like eHealth Ontario, you continue to hire IBM and big consulting firms that work under new entities. I think the craziest one is SAA Click, which the inquiry proved that the staff deliberately lied to the public for years about this overrun, and still no charges or accountability has been held for that. So of course these people are going to continue to hire IBM because there's consequences-free institutional protection involved in that, which is so incredibly wrong. The other piece that's like blatantly obvious in this is somehow they are systematically rewriting procurement policies to serve these vendors or these political relationships and not the public, which is not the point of the policy whatsoever. In many of these processes of awarding these contracts, procurement rules were just completely ignored. Back to Phoenix again, right? Sole sourced to IBM. There was no competitive tender. eHealth Ontario, again, no bid contract of $5.5 million that was awarded to a personal acquaintance of the CEO. What do you mean? My personal favorite, which is why I always harp on you guys about contracts because they're so critical, in the Quebec Health ERP contracts, they deleted a termination clause and making it cost over $150 million to terminate that contract with the vendor. Like, what lawyers on earth would make that make sense? They also did a lot of like this technical hollowing where when these projects were in trouble, they replaced internal employees with outside consultants. Like, just to give you an example, in the eHealth Ontario disaster, we had 300 consultants billing at an average of $2,700 per day, and only a few permanent employees that were retained to manage and document code. When the people who know how to fix the system don't work for you, you're at the mercy of that billing to sustain your overall operations, which is so risky and so dangerous. These types of technical implementations, the damage hits ordinary people, right? Should civil servants be held accountable? In my humble opinion, absolutely. But like when we're looking at these types of things, on the Phoenix payroll disaster, we had over 400,000 payroll errors. Okay, these are soldiers, nurses, public servants who literally were unpaid. SAAQ Click left an absolute disaster where we have Canadian citizens lining up in sub-zero temperatures, and some were even arrested, right, due to inaccessibility of these records. In the BDM disaster, you had over 60,000 seniors waiting for their benefits, right? These are how people survive and how we take care of our elderly. We had over 80,000 applications backlogged, and the media called it, a $5 billion disaster. So what I'm trying to say here is that every failure might be like a very juicy public story, but it's wasted public money. And the people that actually pay for this are the private citizens. This research has absolutely shocked me when it comes to the amount of blatant fraud going on here. I'm happy to get into more of these stories if you find it helpful, or if you've experienced this as a Canadian citizen or a colleague in one of these. Definitely share your stories, because the more transparency we can bring and the more light to talk about these conversations, the less likely they are to happen, and the less likely we see the fraud of these big vendors continuing to take over governments.